And I believe that Ms. Johnson has a request for us or something that she would like us to consider. And if there's no objection from the commission, I would like to suggest that we take Ms. Johnson out of where it would normally be in the agenda, since she is here with us now. So first, before I guess present Ms. Johnson, do any of the commissioners have an objection to proceeding in that fashion?
No.
Okay. And I just want to make sure that we are able to, if they want to speak, that we're able to hear Mike Lawler and Susan Dubin. I wasn't able to hear anything before myself. So, Kelly, do you know whether they are connected okay?
Can you hear me?
Able to hear, yes, Susan, and Mike logged on and we could hear him and logged back off.
Okay, great. So I am going to ask, if she doesn't mind, if Kelly might provide just a brief background so everyone knows who introduced Ms. Johnson, so everyone knows who she is. And
Sure.
I believe, Kelly, that you've had a little bit of back and forth with her. You may want to just cover that a moment. And then I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Johnson for her to present to us whatever she has to present to us. And by the way, Ms. Johnson, thank you very much for coming and taking time out of your day here to be here. You have all 4 of the members of the Ethics Commission here, obviously, as well as Kelly and Susan Dubin, who is with the law office and always attends our meetings. So
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Sure. So Ms. Johnson is the director of Rec and Parks, and she is someone who I have interacted with on a couple of different issues. I really appreciate her perspective on things in trying to accomplish positive things on behalf of Baltimore County. So Ms. Johnson reached out to me, and I think I sent the entire email to the commission, but for background, Ms. Johnson has been the director, I think as long as I have, approximately 18 months, and hails from Prince George's County Rec and Parks. Is that right? I'm like on the spot here, Roz, so I want to make sure I get your bio right. She presented me with a question about the fact that the Baltimore Orioles organization was going to give 200 free tickets to the Police Athletic League recipients, of whom are not Baltimore County employees. But as a result of those 200 tickets, obviously the PAL recipients are receiving those tickets through the Baltimore County Department of Rec and Parks. And it was Ms. Johnson's intention to have staff members of Baltimore County accompany the PAL free ticket recipients to the game, because the PAL recipients are minors and would be unable to go without kind of a, I don't know what the best word, chaperone, so to speak. I explained to Ms. Johnson that as the ethics director, I tried to give the best advice as possible to protect her and to protect Baltimore County. I said the problem was for me was problematic because the ethics laws specifically prohibit tickets to athletic events, and that would be a gift, and it would be a sanctioned gift and not allowed. And then even if it was allowed, we talked about the fact that as a gift, it would have to be disclosed. I told her, though, like I kind of consistent with my advice for everyone, that I am not the entity with which to bless a potential violation of the Ethics Commission, that was my best advice, but that she could ask the commission to make an exception to the ethics rules for this situation. And I think I also said to her, Ms. Johnson, you'll have to correct me if this is wrong, that in my understanding that there had only been one prior exception that had ever been granted, and that had been because of the COVID-19 global pandemic, that the commission granted an extraordinary exception for the solicitation of funds for the COVID-19. So I think what I sent the commission was kind of our back and forth email about the free athletic tickets And I think Ms. Johnson is here to give you a little bit more background and probably, if I was to guess, articulate why it's important that Baltimore County Rec and Parks want to accept these tickets on behalf of the PAL. Take it away, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, and thank you for having me today. Let me just share a couple of things. First, I think Ms. Madigan and I talked right after the ethics training, and that had questions. One of the scenarios was someone who received free tickets, and I was like, well, does this apply to recreation and parks? And what law or rule is it that prohibits us from accepting them because they're going as, or my staff are going as chaperones? So, and you know, there are other jurisdictions around the state that accept these free tickets. The Orioles, as well as the Washington Nationals, give the free tickets, and they have a free ticket program. The Orioles actually used to have a program when I was in Baltimore City, and I know because I helped create it with the Orioles, where youth would get a baseball ticket, a hot dog, and the Orioles would pay for the bus to take them on this field trip, and our staff would accompany them because it's during staff hours and it's one of our programs that we have. And so, you know, fast forward now, coming to Baltimore County, the county I grew up in, and then finding out that we cannot accept complimentary tickets. You know, the staff are in a work capacity. They're not, you know, sitting back kind of drinking beer and watching the game with their friends. They are watching, you know, the youth, and they're explaining the game of baseball. Sports is something that's near and dear to our hearts, and part of our job is to grow athletes, but really to grow adults. So here in Baltimore County, we are the least funded county departments in the state. The average spent per resident is about $80 nationally. We here in Baltimore County at our last check, I think it's $16.43 or somewhere around there. So we're woefully underfunded because I think one of the suggestions was, well, why don't you all purchase the tickets and then you wouldn't have an issue with the ethics piece. But the challenge is that one, our summer camps for our PAL participants are free, so we don't charge anything. And then on top of that, we like to enhance the programs and the activities that they'll participate in. And the Orioles, as well as other sports teams, not so much the football teams, but even the college teams, it's a great piece because it shows the youth kind of the progression through sports. It also shows them, kind of gets them on a college campus and gets them excited about college. And so our job as a Recreation and Parks Department is to expose youth to as many opportunities as possible so that they can then determine their interest. But this would be cost prohibitive for us to purchase 200 tickets to go to an Orioles game and then pass the cost on to parents. The youth that we worked with during the fall learning that we did when schools were shut down and they had virtual learning, we opened our PAL centers up free of charge. We were able to get CARES funding, and the funding actually, the participants that we targeted were through the Department of Social Services. So we had youth who were in foster care, youth who whose families received food stamps only, indicating that a job was kind of the linchpin to the family sustainability, as well as youth whose families had active child protective service cases, because what we found was that child abuse was increasing, but the youth didn't have as many touch points. So we wanted to get those youth engaged in touch points. So we were able to get CARES funding to offer that program free of charge. So that tells you the type of youth that we're working with. We can't give them necessarily 2 tickets and the parents can take them. Because that's still a cost to the parents. And you know, you go to a baseball game nowadays, the Orioles parking is between $30 and $40 if you park in the parking garage. You haven't eaten anything, and you know, good luck trying to eat things. So we will go with the participants, and then you know, our buses will park and coordinate all those things so that
Ms. Johnson, can I just make one? I thought I didn't. There's no problem from where I sit with the PAL recipients receiving the free tickets. It was with the Baltimore County employees. That's all I was going to say.
Right. So the question is how many staff members are we talking about?
Well, it depends. This would be 200, and so we would spread them out across our 8 PAL centers, our 9 PAL centers. And depending on how many participants we had per site, We usually like an 8-to-1 ratio. Sometimes we'll go as high as a 10-to-1 ratio. It just depends. And it also depends on our staffing at the site as well.
So we're talking about 10 tickets for, sorry, 20 tickets for staff at a 10-to-1 ratio, because there's no ethics inquiry in the PAL recipients receiving the free tickets. It's just with the Baltimore County employees.
Yes, I'd say roughly 20. It depends on how it shakes out. Some sites have more staff than others. Some sites have more participants than others, but roughly. And so you'd have full-time staff and part-time staff. At some locations, if they can't get enough, if they don't have enough staff, they will open it up to parents, and parents will go on the trip as well, similar to a school, what do you call it, field trip.
Right, and I can't remember if we talked about this via email or maybe on the phone, because I think we spoke on the phone about it too, that there's obviously, again, no problem with the parents receiving it. And do you have an estimated, your point is that the Baltimore County Rec and Parks budget doesn't have funding to purchase 20 to 30 Baltimore County employee tickets to be chaperones for the PAL recipients, right?
Well, the way you buy tickets, it's, we have the comp tickets. And so the paid seats are in a different section, and you'd have to coordinate a paid, our staff could go and sit in a different section, but then you have 180 kids sitting by themselves in the stadium.
I understand. Is there any more facts from the scenario, Ms. Johnson, that you want to flesh out?
I think that's it. I kind of lost my train of thought a little bit in my presentation, but I think that's pretty much it.
Sorry if I caused you to lose your thought for interrupting about the.
That's okay.
Do any members of the commission have any questions for Ms. Johnson?
I don't have a question. I would just say my personal view is I'm a big advocate for kids and giving them as many opportunities as possible. So I would definitely like to see if we can find a way to make this work for them, because I think it's a great opportunity for the kids. So as long as, we can problem solve and figure something out, that I would like to do that.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions,
Cool.
but I want to ask Madam Chairperson if she has any questions before I start.
We can't hear you.
Hey, Cindy, we can't hear you.
I've been having trouble with, as you all know, with the whole functioning here on this particular program. Yes, so I do have some questions, but Ms. Tancredi, why don't you go ahead and ask some of yours?
Okay. Some of my questions are probably really basic. So Ms. Johnson, if you can bear with me. So it starts with the nature of the PAL program. Is that a function of Rec and Parks? That's a yes. Okay.
And so that's not a basic question. That's an excellent question. It is. Our PAL centers are not traditional PAL centers. The police do not run our programs. It's more of a recreation center, so it's a misnomer. So it's an excellent question.
Okay. And then is accompanying the participants to the event, is that part of the staff's duties?
Yes, it is.
And does the staff get compensated while they're attending the event? Like, is that part of their hours that they work that week?
Yes, it's part of their tour of duty.
Okay. And obviously the staff would not be able to go into the park and accompany the participants if they did not have a ticket.
That's correct.
Okay. Those are all the questions I have. Thank you.
All right, so Ms. Johnson, I would just like to drill down a little bit with respect to, I guess, the relationship of this program to Baltimore County government, if I could, okay. Um, the program by which these free tickets are provided for the children, is that overseen by Baltimore County with respect to setting the date, how the children get there, which children get to go? You know, is there any, you know, are there as many tickets as children who wish to go? Do you know, like, how are the children chosen? But more importantly, I'd like to hear your views, and I may have some follow-up questions about, like, who oversees this actual program that is being provided, which I understand is for the benefit of the children. Is it for the benefit of the children?
Yes.
Okay, so um, so I'd like to hear your views on who oversees the program, and specifically whether that is Baltimore County.
So we oversee the PAL program. And so with the PAL program, we try to create as many field trips and opportunities. The youth will, and it varies from site to site. The youth will go to swimming at the Randallstown location or at the Dundalk location. The youth will go to an amusement park. They will go to various locations. So this is yet another field trip. This program somewhat predates me here in the county. Of course, staff did not go last year because of COVID, but in prior years, they would go to an Orioles game, and that was one of the outings, and the Orioles would provide the ticket. So this is somewhat of a long-standing program, not only in the county, but in the state as well. So traditionally, it's the youth who are interested and want to go on the field trip from the summer camp program. And so as long as they bring in their field trip slip or their field trip form, then they have the ability to go. And sometimes the staff will do first come, first serve. It depends on how many participants are in the camp. It depends on whether or not they have a baseball program, because some youth are like, oh my gosh, baseball, I love it. You know, I want to see, you know, whoever their player is. So it kind of varies from site to site how the youth are chosen, but they are participants in the program, and participants whose parents or guardians have filled out the field trip permission slip form.
Okay,
And then
and that is,
traditionally,
sorry,
go ahead.
please. I was going to say, and just to be clear, it is Baltimore County government, your group, that is making up these permission slips, that is accepting the permission slips, that is communicating about all this.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. Was there something else you wanted to say?
I don't think so.
Okay. These other things that you're describing, like the trips, the swimming trips, if I can call them that, the other kinds of trips, is how is that handled? Is someone donating the transportation cost or the use of the facility? Or, like, how is it that these children are gaining entrance? You know, is somebody paying for them to get past or to get into the facility? And so, yeah, I obviously, what I'm wondering is how this differs from these other programs, if you could address that.
So it depends. So we traditionally have not had vehicles in our department. We had 2 vehicles for the whole entire department, which is unheard of in a recreation and parks department. But through CARES, we were able to acquire vehicles. So we purchased 3, I think they're 11 or they may be 15 passenger vans. So we have transportation now. It just depends on the location. Winfield Pal Center, we do have the Y, which operates the pool in Randallstown, and part of our agreement is that there are community times where people or kids can swim free. So our PAL participants are able to swim free at the Y locations because we have a partnership with them. And at Winfield Pal, I could not believe it, but they walked because, you know, we couldn't figure out the transportation, and procurement is a challenge here in the county. So they walked from Winfield to Randallstown to go swimming. Other locations, we're trying to figure out, and we've started this year, we've gotten approval to be able to drive participants in a vehicle. There was a rule where we could not drive participants in a vehicle, even though we're recreation and parks. So we worked through that process with our legal department and the administrative officer. So, it varies. If they're going to the amusement park, we traditionally, through Maryland Recreation and Parks Association, there's a discount ticket program. And so the youth will pay for that. And we try to make that be like the big field trip, so to speak, because it's a little more costly than the other programs. But sometimes they will pay.
I'm sorry, who will pay? The children?
The children will pay,
Children.
but our staff will not pay. We will purchase the ticket for our staff because they're working, they're not going and sliding down the slides by themselves. They have a responsibility to make sure that if they take 12 children, they bring back 12 children in relatively the same shape that they left in. They may be a little bit more tired and a little wet, but that's our goal. So they are in work capacity at that point as well.
For these various Baltimore County employees who would attend these Orioles games, would it be the case that for any of them, the children would be their own children?
No, they're not allowed to have their children at their site. Their children can participate in our programs, but they're traditionally at other sites.
Okay. And again, I'm not sure I quite understand the answer on this one, but of all the children that participate under the umbrella of your programs, can all of them get to go to the Orioles game if they want? Or is it a bit of a lottery? Like who chooses who gets to go of the children,
So-
not of the employees?
It depends on the site, and it depends on how they agree upon how many are going to be allocated. So we have 9 sites, 9 PAL centers. We soon will have 11, but we have 9 PAL centers currently. So staff might say, okay, well, let's divide it evenly. Another staff might say, well, I don't have 50 kids registered, so I really only need 23 tickets. Another site may say, well, my summer camp program, I only have 12 kids who are interested. I'm going to add the baseball team or the basketball team, whomever, to the tickets, but they are PAL participants. So it's not like a one size fits all for who gets to go, but it is an open process.
I expect I can predict the answer to this question, but do you know anything about whether there is any money in the Baltimore County budget for your programs that would allow for the payment of these tickets? And I guess also, do you know what the value of these tickets are?
There is not any money in our budget. When I came, the first day I got here, we were going over tier requests. And, I'm almost embarrassed to say our tier request was for tables and chairs at some of our facilities. And a tier request is, you have your baseline budget and anything extra you want to add to the budget for the upcoming budget season, you have to put it in as a tier request here in the county. So our tier request was for tables and chairs. I think it was, if memory serves me correctly, about $37,000 for tables and chairs. And, here I am arguing and trying to advocate for, not arguing, you all know what I mean, but advocate for $37,000 worth of tables and chairs at our facility. And then we had a $3,000 request for a fly spray system at the Ag Center because flies were an issue. And so we didn't have the $3,000 in our budget for this fly spray system. So no, we don't have money in our budget. Our budget is roughly, now I think we're up to $13.2 million. There are 800,000 residents in the 846,000 residents in the county. And our budget is $13.2 million. To give you a comparison, Prince George's County is about 900,000 residents. Their budget is $350 million. And we were 12.2, and now thanks to the county executive and the county council, we're at 13.6 off the top of my head, not including capital.
So do you have anything you can represent to the commission as to what your understanding would happen to this program if these donations would not be able to be made this time?
Oh, we wouldn't go. Okay. We don't have the funding to be able to purchase 200 tickets. And not only do we not have the funding, let's say we did have the funding, the procurement process here in the county is such that I don't even know if we'd be able to purchase these tickets. I mean, I feel like we'd have to do a bid or something else.
No, they'd be a sole
We
source.
could sole source?
That
Okay.
would be a problem. And we're not talking about 200 tickets. We're talking about 20. And we're really talking about compensating the Orioles for the value of those 20 to 30 tickets. It's not like your staff would have to sit somewhere else. It would be compensating them for the value of that percentage of tickets.
Okay, and let me also share that these tickets have a face value of $0. So we get comp tickets. Now, agreeably, there is a value to these free tickets, but the face value on the ticket is always 0, or it says comp. So we're not buying, tickets that have, they're giveaway tickets out there.
I have a question, Ms. Johnson. When is the date of the game?
The date is August 25th at 7:05 p.m. and it's versus the Anaheim Angels.
What day of the week is that?
Let me see. That's a Wednesday.
Okay, I don't have any more questions.
Mike, do you have any questions?
Mike is muted.
No.
Mike? Do you want me to call you, Mike, on your phone?
Can you hear
Kelly
me?
does. Oh, good.
Now
Yes. Yeah, great,
Now I
Mike.
can hear you.
I'm
Good to hear your
sorry.
voice.
I do not
I
have any
was
questions.
just wondering. Okay, great. Lisa, did you have any other questions?
No, thank you.
And Laura? No. Okay, so so I believe that's all, Ms. Johnson, that we need from you. I thank you very much for your attendance. You are welcome to stay if you wish for the remainder of the open part of the meeting, although the discussion of this would be in the closed part of the meeting, so it would not be about your subject, unfortunately, I guess you might feel. So like I say, you can leave if you wish, or you can stay on as you wish.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for your consideration, and thank you for your very thoughtful questions. Have a great
Ms.
rest of your
Johnson.
day.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Okay, I'm going to suggest that we go back into the kind of normal part of the agenda, at least get through the minutes, and then take this up as the first one of the actual issues for us to discuss. So the first item that I have is the approval of minutes. And with respect to that, before I put it open, I actually had a question for Susan. And I think this is fine to have right now. Susan, I noticed, and this has probably been the case on other meetings, but I just had not noticed, I guess, if it was the case when I saw the minutes. But I noticed that it referred to a discussion, but not to the actual motion that was made. And we do make motions from time to time, so it's just unclear to me whether these minutes are supposed to also reflect motions. I appreciate the fact, of course, that the past meeting was, of course, taped and is a public record, and in that sense, the meaning of minutes, I'm not sure that minutes even get posted under those circumstances. So it may be of no consequence, but I will just put out there that I have no changes myself to the minutes unless it is necessary for us as a matter of county protocol to amend to include the motion. Could Susan possibly address that, please?
As a practical matter, we normally do identify the motion, who made it and who seconded it.
Okay. So I would then suggest an amendment of the minutes to reflect a motion, which I specifically recall was made by Michael Lawler, although it was essentially after I asked for a motion to that effect. But I remember that he was the one who made it. I have no recollection who seconded it, to tell you the truth. I do recall that the commission passed it, but it had to do with it was with respect to the fact that we were asking, I guess, that Kelly do a review of those Form ones that had been filed by people who were Form 2 people to see how many there were who either answered questions on Form 1 that would not be required of Form 2, or who, either way, or who put in a comment that they were filing Form 1 as though it were Form 2. So I would suggest and would look for a motion to amend in that regard. Would anyone, just to amend the motion in that, excuse me, amend the minutes in that regard, would anyone wish to move to amend the minutes in that regard?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you. And is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And Laura? We can't hear you, Laura. Still can't hear you.
Sorry, I lost
There
my
you go.
switch
Yes,
off. I'm in favor.
yes, thank you. Okay, so that motion passes. That was the only such modification I had. Does anybody else have any modifications that they would suggest be made to the minutes from last meeting? No. Okay, so is there then a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
I'll make that motion.
Second,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that passes unanimously. So I would just like to kind of make a couple of observations. Kelly was, I guess, I don't know, 2 weeks ago or so, whenever it was, sent around to us the annual report that I guess is in large part under the office that she heads, which actually, not all of which concerns the Ethics Commission, but it also relates to the Ethics Commission. There's a section in there about it. I'm assuming that all of you have taken a look at it. And it triggered me to have a conversation with Kelly, because I have to tell you, although I'm very aware of the I say the large amount of things, tasks involving the Ethics Commission that fall under Kelly, and there are a lot of phone calls and things like that. I think seeing in that report the number of 200 and some, Kelly, I don't remember 200 and how many, but 200 and some inquiries that she received over the course of last year was something that I noticed. Kelly explained that we don't, and explains in the report that we don't know what that number was for prior years. So we don't know whether that is larger or smaller, but it caused me to just, have a conversation with Kelly about that, and, just get a sense of what kinds of things there tend to be. Like, it occurred to me that perhaps some of them involve about the disclosure statements and some of them people wanting to know what they're doing. And I just thought it would be helpful. That ended up with Kelly explaining that to me, but I would just think it would be helpful for the commission members and their familiarity with what is happening, related to the commission functions. I would just invite Kelly, if you could just say, I don't mean like a big long thing, but Kelly, if you could just give just a little quick synopsis of it for the commission members, just so they can get that additional depth and also realize how much you're doing.
Sure. We get a lot of, I call them inquiries as opposed to complaints. I know that Sue said before I started, it's a lot of work. Before I started, it was Sue, Mike Field, Ashley Lewandowski, and the part-time contractual employee. That was the four of them were running the commission. I mean, we get inquiries that I would say are easily solved in 5 minutes. And we get inquiries that are 45 minutes to an hour. If there's anything that I think is important or worthy of you to know, I forward them to you. I probably, for context, would have forwarded you the email exchange between myself and Miss Johnson before she even was going to attend, because I would have thought that that was something that you'd be aware of. But the majority of the questions, if they're not about the financial disclosures, are about gifts and solicitation of gifts and whether it's permissible or acceptable. I mentioned to Cindy that going forward, if the commission is interested, I'm happy to, maybe not every month, I kind of just have to figure out what the rhythm is, but send you, now that we log them, what they are, kind of summaries of the different types of inquiries that we get. Happy to do that.
Does anybody have any comments or questions regarding this? I just really wanted people to know just how much was going on, because I thought, sometimes, well, I just thought that would be good. So does anybody have any questions or comments?
Yeah, Kelly, do you have a sense of how many of the inquiries relate to the financial statements? So I'm looking at your report, and it looks like you fielded 221 ethics inquiries in the fiscal year of 2021. Does that number sound right?
That's what I'm reading also.
Yeah, I think that I think it's fair to say between January and April, the majority are questions about the financial disclosure statement, but I don't think that overall that's what the questions are about. I would say the questions overall are whether or not somebody can do something. Is this conduct permissible? So I've gotten a lot of calls recently from individuals that are going to retire, probably 3 or 4 calls in the last 2 or 3 weeks about individuals that are going to retire and wanted to confirm that the secondary employment that they're interviewing for is going to be acceptable. I mean, I really consider them kind of inquiries for advice. Sue, how would you think that's fair in your experience?
Yeah, I think so. A lot of times the calls are just, I'm not sure, can I just bounce this off of you? And the majority of the time, it's not a real ethics issue. So we don't, in the past, if it was something I could answer quickly, then I would say, yeah, that's fine. If I thought it needed to be brought to the commission, then I would tell them that they needed to bring that to the commission.
I will say though, I've gotten a lot of calls over the last 4 or 5 months about people wanting to have free food, free gifts, solicitation, and saying, well, that's unallowed and unacceptable under the ethics commission, and having them say, well, why? And kind of walking them through. I would say, I want to say that that's kind of, along with financial disclosure, that's probably, I get a lot of questions about gifts and why is the credit union not able to throw a big hot dog party for the Department of Public Works? And they say, well, the hot dog costs 45. It's like everybody wants to justify why it's okay and why it's not necessarily a gift. I think those are the majority of what I get.
So going back to my question, do you have a sense of how many of the inquiries were related to financial statements of the 221?
I'd have to go through and count them. And I'm happy to do that if you want me to.
Was it a quarter?
Yeah, it's probably a quarter. It's not 50%, because we get maybe more during January and April, but there's a steady stream of ethics work throughout the year.
Okay, thanks.
Are there any other questions? So I also want to just mention that I've mentioned to Susan that I noticed that there was this provision in the code that seemed to suggest that requests that relate to kind of like, how do you fill out the disclosure form, or what do I do? Not not the mechanics of how you fill it out, but what do I do? What do I have to disclose? Those kinds of things are supposed to be presented in writing by the inquirer and then ruled upon by the commission. Yet there seem to be so many of them, and many of them are the kinds of things that can be answered kind of quickly, that it sounds like, if I understand this correctly, it's a practical matter. That process that was in the in the code, as a practical matter, is not being like literally followed for everyone. I mean, it sounds like there would be like, a couple of week or whatever, if that's what it was going to be. And during disclosure season, it would be like really a lot. And the thought seems to be, Susan, I don't want to be exactly speaking for you, but so I'd like you to address this, but it's my sense from Susan that as a practical matter, this doesn't really work, and that's like why it isn't happening. But I just want to, Susan, can you just address that so everybody can feel comfortable with that? But
Yeah, I
I
mean,
know I feel comfortable with it from what you said, but I just want
when
to,
you look
I
at
just
the
want to make sure the others hear
volume,
it too.
when you look at the volume and the nature of these calls, I mean, the commission would be meeting all the time, and it would just be an incredible waste of everybody's time to have to write opinions on these kind of things that can be handled simply. I think that that code section probably is one of the things we should look at to recommend revision. It probably served a purpose way back when people weren't as quick to call the ethics commission. And it's worth taking a look at. We will be doing a code revision within the next year or so. So that would be my recommendation. I just think it would put an inordinate burden on the commission to have to respond to each and every one of these complaints as a formal advice and opinion.
Okay. So thank you, Susan, for that explanation. And if no one has any questions about that, which I'm not seeing any indication of, I would like to move on to the executive director's report, to the extent, Kelly, that there are matters that are of public for the public meeting. And if not, we can adjourn and go into the closed meeting to address Ms. Johnson's request and anything else that's on our table.
So the public part of the report would be that I met yesterday with the project manager from the IT department. The last week, I have been testing the updates and tweaks to the current financial disclosure system to include the ability to file an end of year disclosure, as well as the ability to log in and have your information copied over for future years. That has been tested by myself, Susan, and 2 other individuals. It's been validated. That is going to move into production Wednesday night, which will be helpful so that everyone that has left county government since January will then have the ability to file their exit form online. And I met today for about 45 minutes with that team to discuss adding Form 2 online that they believe will be not difficult for them to do. It's going to be the same form. They're going to change the logic so that depending on what board you select when you log in, you will be automatically directed to that. So I'm hopeful that that is going to happen quicker than I thought it was going to happen.
Kelly, while we're on the subject of the financial disclosures, could you let the commission know where you are with respect to the review that was mentioned in that amendment to the minutes piece that we did?
Yeah, I'm about, we tried to get Sue administrative rights to the system for Sue and I to split them. She hasn't yet been able to get them. So I just started on it. I'm about halfway through the project. I need more time because I think it's better for me to give you a longer, more in-depth review than to do a shorter review and have to turn around and do more. But I can tell you from my review thus far, I don't believe it is going to be a very big number of people.
Kelly, when do you, I know that you don't know what might come up, but, and I also realize that this is summer and there could be a vacation coming up, but when do you anticipate, assuming the worst scenario that Susan does not get these administrative rights, when do you anticipate that you would be complete this?
The worst case scenario would be by the October meeting. I think it's more likely that I would have it by the September meeting. And that is in part because I'm on vacation next week for a week and then going to certification for a week. And it's very, very busy on the Inspector General side of the house. And I want to do a good job going through it with the information. So my goal is to have it, I'm halfway complete. My goal is to hopefully have it done by the September meeting. And if
Okay.
I have it done in advance, I will send it out in an email in advance.
Okay, and you are, like, for example, on all those questions where even if on the Form 2, where even if you have something to disclose because it relates to your board or commission, but you don't have to answer as many questions as you would if you were a Form 1 person. You know what I mean by that? You're
Right.
taking, because that's one of the telltale signs in my view. Do you know that if somebody has answered all those questions in some way, that would be someone who's filling, that's one of the things that, we were talking about looking for.
Yep.
And okay, good. I say that only because I would hate to see you spend the time on it and us to say, oh, there was this other thing. Okay, so Kelly, I mean, we can, I guess, see how this goes. Oh, do you have any kind of prediction or insight into whether Susan is likely to get these rights?
I'm just going to move forward with on my own at this point. It'd be wonderful if she got them, but I'm just
Right.
going through on my own at this point.
Yeah,
Well, if I
wondering
don't
we
get
have.
them by tomorrow, it's going to be a while because I'm on vacation for 2 weeks,
Okay.
starting Friday
Well,
afternoon.
there you go.
Susan, do you have any, we hope you have a good vacation, by the way, Susan, but do you have any, like, have you heard anything about whether people are saying to you, oh, yes, it should be any day, as opposed to, oh, we don't know if it's even possible? Do you know?
And just to be clear, my sons both work for OIT and I still can't get an answer. So I have no idea.
Okay.
And I have sent emails last week and I sent a follow-up email on Monday and I haven't heard.
Okay. And where does anybody, either of you, Susan or Kelly, have a prediction on when they will complete the getting Form 2 online so that the people who did Form 1 could redo it as Form 2?
Again, like I met with those guys today at 10:45. What he has asked me for is the language that he wants and that I want included at the end of each and every schedule. I have a draft that I've sent to Sue for her review, but we would propose if the solution that I have proposed, he again, as a programmer, it's the same form. There's no difference in the form as the programmer. The difference is the addition of the language and having it based on what you select going to A or to B. He did not seem to think it was going to be a very difficult fix.
Okay.
Now, the challenge is that I'm not in charge of his calendar and I don't get to assign him tasks. So I have told everybody that is willing to listen, this is a priority. But that's all I can say. It would really be unfair to have it be a prediction, but I felt very good about our meeting today when he did not seem to think it would be a difficult fix.
Well, in fact, that seems incredibly promising to me because it sounds to me like it's being focused upon there. So that sounds good.
I have a
Meeting the
question.
price. Yeah.
Will the commission be able to see the form before it goes live?
So no, I'm happy to take a screenshot of what it would look like if you want me to. The language that is that your question, what the language looks like, Lisa, or you want to actually see the form?
I guess in some ways I'm a bit stymied because from what I understand, if someone requests information in these forms, it's supposed to be provided, yet for some reason it's difficult to extract the information. I guess I think it's important that the form track the language of the statute.
Well, the problem, I agree with you, and the challenge is there's no language in the statute. The statute says that the commission shall develop a form similar to the Maryland Annotated Code General Provisions 5609, which says unpaid members of boards and commissions shall fill out a form with respect to regulated, leased, contract with their board. So
I
there
guess
is,
I'm not entirely in agreement that there's no, I mean, the statute does provide what disclosures are supposed to be made to some extent. So I think it would be important that whatever form is developed, that it track and not deviate from the language of the statute.
well, that is the form that we have is the form that is from the statute as well as consistent with what the state of Maryland has. You're talking about the current form or the second one?
I'm talking about the current form, but also I want to, with respect to the new form, you know, since it is something that the commission is supposed to be, you know, developing and promulgating, I think it would be good if the commission could see it before it went live, although I don't want to delay anything. That is not my desire or my intention, but I think it would be,
Well, I will
I just
ask.
feel like it's within the duties of the commission. But I say this, I haven't spoken with our Madam Chairperson, who's really in charge of the show. So let me
How about I will ask?
Let me ask Cindy what her thoughts are with that in respect to that request.
Right. Yeah, I think that that is an appropriate request. And it would seem to me that screenshots, from what I'm hearing, it sounds like screenshots of the pages would actually satisfy the desire that has been articulated by Lisa. Correct?
Oh, I think I could do.
It sounded like Kelly was saying she could do that. So I suggest that as a thing, as what we should do.
I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you, Kelly. Okay, so Kelly, the one thing I would like you to do, if you would please, is when you have completed this, if you would please let us know, because I think it would be helpful to the commission, that if you complete this and can put together, I don't want you to have to spend a lot of time doing it, but some kind of a briefing in an email or something prior to the next meeting or whatever meeting we'd be discussing at, which is hopefully the next meeting. I think that would be helpful to the commission to be able to be, thinking about it, prior to. So I just ask that, for example, if you're completed a week before a meeting, that you actually, as you often do, give us some kind of an update by way of email rather than so that we could maybe kind of put this, kind of wrap it up at the meeting that would follow. Okay.
I'm happy to. It's just that's what I always do.
Yes, I agree. I'm just saying that this is one where I'd really like it. So it'll be good. Thank you. And so I think I don't think there's anything else we need to cover on disclosure statements today. Do you agree, Kelly?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Was there anything else that you wanted to cover as part of the as part of the open part of the meeting?
No.
Kelly. Okay. So then I would like to see if we have a motion to recess and close for the discussion of the couple of inquiries and any closed portion of Kelly's report. Is there a motion from the commissioners?
Make a motion.
Okay, is there a second?
A second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Great. So it is 4:02 p.m. on August the 3rd, and we are now adjourning the